Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and we're doing more Monster Hunter Generations today. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, I should say. And let's just jump right off into it. Now, emerging on the scene and charming the hearts of all hunters who care to fight monsters with a unique skeleton, Nerscylla? Nerscylla? Nersan? Well, I know people are going to have a conniption over the punctuation, but anyway, Spider made its debut in the 4th generation. Much like the Quechua before him, she? Okay, you know what? Pause. I am baffled beyond measure that people manifest ire towards the fact that I assume the gender of a fake monster in a fake game and that I'm the cause of all the strife in the Monster Hunter community. One in which I'm only using the he pronoun to basically throw a net encompassing all that it is and represents as opposed to labeling its sex. So for those who get triggered about a certain thing like this, let it alone. It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter, it's a game. But I digress. Moving on, Spider has 4 less legs than the traditional spider, but still moves and acts like one. It has the ability to expel a silk web at the player, trapping him or her, and then recovering the player to itself in an attempt to deal a devastating blow via its stinger on its abdomen. A master of trapping, it has a history of preying on Gypceros, which is evident by its hide that it wears on its body. If it traps you, not only will it use the stinger as a means to deal damage, but it will also extend its mandible. But with those 2 attacks, Spider's real strength comes from its ability to navigate the areas in webs or tree canopies like Quechua before it. When fighting him, however, you kinda have to try and match his ability to do just these things. You must do your best to let it not overcome you with this web attacks and its sneaky mix-up. I mean, as vague as it sounds, it's really the truth. It's just a way for me to allow you guys to let you understand that these are the small tips and tricks that you kind of really need, and you as a hunter should use your newly found knowledge and your adaptation ability to adapt to the situation at hand. Take all you've learned up until this point, use it, manifest it in a way to actually beat your monster, and be creative in how you do it. My job is really just to kind of point you into the right direction. So that's why I don't really do super ultra mega breakdown videos in these generalization videos. There you go, Dak. But anyway, with that being said, let's move over to the good stuff, the weaknesses and however. Simply put, when fighting Spider, really all you have to do is bring yourself some fire. It's not really susceptible to pretty much anything else outside of really fire. So bring fire and attack its head or its stomach. You can do the most amount of damage possible. Now, outside of doing that, we need to know what its weapons do. Its weapons are actually very good. They've always been really good. In this game, I'm just going to come off the top that its bow is the best bow in the game. There's always a bow in every monster in the game that just seems to be that slapper. It was the Quechua bow back in 3 Ultimate. It was the Teostra bow back in 4U. And I think it was in Generations. I'm not sure. I'm not a bow user. However, its bow in this game is the best bow in the game for the most part. So if you want about that meta, use its bow. Moving over from the bow over to the Blade Master stuff, I don't even know if it has a bow gun. If it does, it's not that good because no one ever uses it ever. So don't even worry about the bow gun. Use the bow. Moving to the Blade Master stuff, it has 2 types. It has sleep and then has poison. Now for the most part, its main weapons will use sleep, but then its hyper variants will use poison. So it's another sleep weapon. We don't have too many of them. There's only a few out there, maybe 3 all day. Nerscylla. What's the owl's name? I forget. And then Plesioth to a lesser degree. But, and also there's like a plant-based one. I know there's one like that for the lance and the sword and shield, but I digress. Moving over. Its main focus is the fact that it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of actual raw attack, but it has immensely huge amounts of white sharpness. It has a very, very high sharpness kind of thing. So if you want a weapon with incredible amounts of sharpness, it doesn't necessarily have the highest attack, which tends to balance the weapons out themselves. Nerscylla weapons are great for you in that particular regard. Again, not the highest attack. You really only get about 280, 290, maybe 300 depending on the weapon you use, but it will have a huge massive chunk of natural white sharpness. There's a bit of purple you can have later on in the end game, G rank and whatnot, but you're looking at a very massive large amount of white. There's only one other monster in the game who actually rivals it for this particular amount of white sharpness, which we will get to when we get to him, and that's going to be later. But that's his weapons in a nutshell. They're all very decent. It has really good amounts of sleep. I mean, by really good, I mean it's average, like up to 20 or so, and that's okay. The only monster really have more is like, again, the owl, but for the most part the owl didn't have really good sharpness, so it's kind of hit and miss, give or take. It's whatever you actually really like in that regard. Its poison, however, is a lot. It's actually really good. It's quite a lot of poison actually, so it really depends on what you really want to have as your poison weapon. Do you care more about the actual raw attack, or do you care about the sharpness along with the element itself? And if you like element and you like sharpness, Nerscylla is for you. Now, weapons out of the way, let's talk about armor. Again, Nerscylla, aka Young Spider, doesn't have a whole lot of sets. It only has a high and a G, and there's not really much in between, but off the top we're going to be looking at this. Status attack +1, constitution +2, and double stun. Now that's not a huge bummer. Nerscylla armor does have a lot of slots, has 5 off the jump, so you can actually easily gem that out and, you know, not have the double stun effect, but for the most part those is really is only skills in high rank. Not too good, not too bad, it's kind of whatever. Unfortunately, G rank isn't much better. The real draw to the Nerscylla armor is the fact that it looks really cool. Now, Nerscylla G rank armor has the same skills. Status attack +1, constitution +2, however, its last skill is mechanic, i.e. explosive trapper. What it is bombardier and trap master at the same time. It's one of those combination skills, allowing you to have additional bomb damage and speeding up your trap setups and things like that. So you can actually, I guess if you're about that life, the whole capping life, the whole bombing, capping kind of thing, not that bad, not a bad of a skill. It's a rare skill actually. There's only like 3 armors in the game that even have this skill, but that's its armor. But for the most part, that's pretty much really all you need to know about the Nerscylla. I mean, not a super tough monster. Understand that it has the ability to actually encase you in its web, reel you in, do massive damage, or encase you in the web, put you to sleep, poison you with its mandibles. Watch out for the poison. It's a deadly poison too. It's like G rank poison even in high rank if you get hit with the stinger from its abdomen. So really watch out for that. If you can watch out for those 2 things, the fact that it can hit you with its mandibles, potentially putting you to sleep, poisoning you with its stinger, you should be okay. It's not a very hard monster to fight. You fought harder monsters already. I 100% guarantee you have fought harder monsters, but that's just how it gets down. For the most part, it is what it is. It's not the huge big issue of a monster to fight, but it's a pretty cool one nonetheless. I recommend maybe dabbling in some of its armors, or not really armor, so much the weapons, and maybe the armor if you really care for it. It's kind of okay. But with that being said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and that's the Nerscylla. Oh, lastly, before we go, the last video we talked about a Patreon, and potentially me actually setting one up to actually give the people who probably subscribe to that particular thing to give you exclusive videos, things like that, because a lot of people talk about, hey Dak, we want the deviant videos now. So I'm thinking, yo, if we do the Patreon thing, maybe the Patreon subs would actually get to see those videos first. Like, I will actually make those videos and they will see them before everyone else sees them. So if you're a Patreon sub or something like that, you probably can see videos earlier. You'll be privy to like giveaways, things like that. I don't know, I'm thinking of cool things to actually give to people if they ever decide, or if I ever decide to actually come up with a Patreon kind of thing or whatever. I'm also going to take a look into how other people do their Patreons and see if I can actually get a couple of cues and some tips on how they actually do it and implement it in a way in which it would, I guess, best represent me and my community. But with that being said, everyone, thank you much for your consideration and your effort and your continued support. It's been your boy, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace.